Hello everyone and welcome back to my kitchen. Today we are talking about tostadas. Tostadas, fritas, fried, crispy fried tortillas. And I can't tell you how many times people have said to me, I was going to make these beautiful crispy tostadas. I even made my own homemade tortillas and fried them and they were terrible. Well, number one, you've got to know that's the worst tortilla that you can fry. It's always going to come out sort of heavy and usually quite greasy. So what do you need to know? Okay, I bought so many different varieties of packaged tortillas at the grocery store. Everything from the very commonly available Mission variety to the organic 365. We've got the Tortilla Factory one over here. So if that tortilla is something that could be reheated for a really delicious taco, then that's not going to make a good tostada. The good tostada is going to be made out of a very thin tortilla that is made from really dry corn masa and dry corn masa that's coarsely ground so that it won't puff up. So look over here and see this one from the Tortilla Factory. So this ballooned up like a pita bread. When you look at that one, it's very thick, okay? So I believe this is that one. It's a very thick tortilla. You'd want to reheat this, pile something delicious inside and have a really delicious taco out of it. This one over here is the 365. You can see it has a big puff in there. It's fine, but it wouldn't be the best. The best one that we have here on the table is this one right here. Tiny, tiny, tiny little bubbles there. But you can also see that the corn is very coarsely ground here. It doesn't look like any of the other ones. In fact, this is what it looks like. It is so dry that you would never want to eat it as the wrapping for a delicious taco. You can just see how coarsely ground the corn is, and when you feel it, it feels very leathery. Okay, so how do you get that if you want to have a really perfectly fried tostada and you want to do it at home? So you go to a tortilla factory. You go to a place that's serving restaurants because this is the one that you would fry for chips. This is the one you would fry for tostadas. So go there and say, I want those very thin ones that you sell to the restaurants that they are going to fry for chips. And it will probably come in a bigger bag than what you could imagine, but you can just like break that up and put it into other bags and then freeze them because these freeze really, really well. They're kind of an indestructible tortilla. I never said what to do if you don't live near a tortilla factory. Okay, my recommendation is that you go into your regular grocery store and go into the frozen food counter, and that's usually where you'll find a lot of nationally distributed brands. They tend, or some of them, tend to be very, very thin, and because they've been frozen, they're going to be a little dried out. So you just let those defrost and then lay them out on the countertop for a few minutes to further dry out. I usually lay a towel on top of them just to make sure that they don't curl up, and then fry those. It may take a little experimentation to find a brand that will really work for you, but that is my recommendation. Now back to the recipe. Or you could go to your local Mexican grocery store and buy already fried tostadas. And I will say that this is a famous brand from here in Chicago, that what you get in this package here is like perfect. You see, it's like the one that I brought from our restaurant that we use. This one came from a tortilleria that's called El Popo. This one is from El Milagro, but they're both done in the same style. They're both light, they're super crisp, and they provide the very best base for making any kind of tostada that you want to layer on top of it. Okay, so let's talk about frying now. The oil that I have here, I've got up to 360 degrees. You know, I'm a huge fan of using a thermometer. So this is the thermometer that I use when I'm frying. It has the main thermometer base over here, away from the actual oil, and then it has a probe that goes into that. So I've got this at 360. That's the temperature that I'm looking for. If you don't have a thermometer, then you couple of different things that you want to do, and I so encourage you to have a thermometer, because the difference between 350 degrees and 60 degrees can be the difference between perfectly fried tortilla and one that's kind of greasy. But 360 degrees, it will be shimmering across the surface, the oil will. So you're looking for that shimmer there. Second thing is, it should sizzle fiercely when you put the little edge of it in there. So that's where we are. You can see what it does. Now, once you throw your tortilla in here, then you're gonna turn it. Turn it regularly every few seconds for the first part of the frying until it becomes completely flat. Now this one, because it is the one that we use in our restaurants for making tostadas or for making chips or taquitos, it only blisters across the surface. It doesn't ever balloon up like I showed you in some of the tortillas that we fried, as illustrative of what happens when you take a thick, what we call table tortilla, the kind that you would use for a taco, and fry that. So this is ready now. It only took less than 30 seconds really for it to fry crisp there. And I'm going to just fry a couple more of them here. You see in that initial turning that I am turning them until they become rigid again, and that will keep their flatness there. And I leave them in here until they almost completely stop bubbling. Now there are so many uses for the tostada base. And I'm going to go into that in a number of other videos. But I will tell you that one of my favorite things to do for a kind of simple lunch, because I always like to have some beans on hand, is to spread some beans on there. I don't necessarily always fry my own tostada bases. Those are pretty much what I would run to the store and get. A little bit of my favorite roasted tomatillo salsa over the top of it. A little queso fresco on that. And something simple like this is not only so reminiscent of the flavors that you get, especially in central Mexico, but it's also nutritious, delicious, and really satisfying.